Hi, everyone. This is Mirkala Wozniak with the Clerk and Recorder's Office. It is 6 o'clock. We will give folks another minute or two to get before we get started, and we'll go from there. Okay, it's 6:02. Why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm sure folks will trickle into the meeting as we move along in the presentation. I'm Mirkala Wozniak. I'm with the Clerk and Recorder's Office. Thank you to everyone that RSVP'd, and hopefully I got everyone the link. Um, uh, if you do have questions as Molly's presenting this evening, please go ahead and answer them into the chat. And depending on the question, I'll either get back to you if I can, or pass along the question to Molly so she can pause and answer the question. Or if it makes sense, we may just hold the questions to the end, depending on the question and as we're going. So I'm going to go ahead and put Molly on screen for a moment, and then she's to give a little bit more introduction before we get started. 1 second. Okay, Molly, why don't you, I've got you on there.
Yep. Sounds great. Thanks, Mirkala, and good evening, everyone. I hope everyone has had a great day. And like Mirkala said, we really appreciate your participation in this webinar tonight. We know there are a lot of changes this year in elections, and we know that there's a lot of interest on ranked choice voting. So we wanted to provide the opportunity to share information about ranked choice voting and how our office has approached planning and implementing RCV. And we also wanted to share just some normal run-of-the-mill key election dates and information for you all. And as Mirkala said, please don't hesitate to drop questions into the chat. And if you think of them later, never hesitate to reach out to our office. We're happy to provide any and all information that's helpful to you. So with that being said, I'm going to go off camera and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so an overview of this presentation, like I said, we'll be covering some information on elections and voters, some key statistics, and then basically everything that you need to know about RCV, and probably some things that you don't, but we'll share it anyway, and then leave time at the end for questions and answers. So we'll go to the next slide. And as Mirkala is navigating to the next slide, high level, our office is guided by state election statute and rules. I will say our office did not take a stance on RCV. I personally did not take a stance on RCV. But what we did do is ensure that when it was passed at the City of Boulder, by City of Boulder voters, that we took a stand in ensuring a successful implementation by commenting on legislation and future rulemaking on RCV, which we'll get to in a little bit. But key dates for Boulder County voters that you should know about. We, as you all know, have mailed ballots earlier or a week ago today. If you did not get your or if you did not get your ballot in the mail, you can check your registration at govotecolorado.gov and make any updates until October 30th for us to mail you a ballot. After October 30th, you'll need to go into a vote center to request a replacement mail ballot or vote in person. There is no voter registration deadline in Colorado. You may register to vote up to and including Election Day. Our vote centers do open on October 30th, and vote centers are one-stop shops where voters can register to vote, request a replacement ballot, vote in person, vote using equipment for people with a disability, and answer or ask any questions of our election judges. We did do a pre-election testing of ballots and equipment a couple weeks ago, and what that public test did was confirm that our election was programmed accurately and that the voting system was set up to properly tabulate votes. And so it's a pre-election test that is open to the public and is conducted by bipartisan teams. And we did have a successful pre-election testing, which is called logic and accuracy testing. On October 26th, we have Vote Early Day. We are celebrating Vote Early Day with 3 events. And the purpose of Vote Early Day is to raise awareness around the opportunity to vote early to ensure that nothing gets in someone's way when it comes to casting that ballot. We know life gets busy, and we don't want to make sure that people vote early, so it's done and complete. We are having a food drive at our office, and if you would like to drop off a canned good or some sort of household item, we are collecting those items on behalf of EFA, which is the Emergency Family Assistance Association, a wonderful organization here in the city of Boulder that supports community members who are faced with financial challenges. So please consider that. And then we're also celebrating at Avery Brewing Company and then Intercambio as well. And then we have 3 elections next year, the presidential primary, the statewide primary, and then of course the general election. The next slide just provides some information about Boulder County voters. We do have 230,000 active registered voters, the majority of whom are unaffiliated, followed by Democrat and then Republican. This data is available on our website along with other data if you're interested. Some folks like to know the breakdown of active voters by city. One thing that is interesting about this slide is that Longmont recently surpassed Boulder last year with more registered voters. So congrats, Longmont, on becoming the city with the most active registered voters. And then the last data slide that we just wanted to highlight is that this, a lot of people ask, oh, what's the voter turnout going to look like this year? And really, this is what people look at when they're trying to figure that out, because we have, like elections tend to produce like turnout. And so we do have, of course, lower turnout in these coordinated elections, higher turnout in the general elections. But as a state, we do have pretty good turnout in Boulder County. We have good turnout as well, regardless of what type of election it is. And it's always great to go ahead and remind folks that there is an election every year and how to verify that their registration is updated and to make sure that they get that ballot in the mail. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so for the meat of the presentation, we know that most people are here to learn about RCV. So a bit of context is that in 2020, the city of Boulder had 2 questions. City of Boulder voters had 2 questions. It was wrapped into one ballot measure, though. It was, should we elect the mayor using RCV? Traditionally, the mayor's been elected amongst their peers on council. So this did really 2 things. Now voters are electing the mayor themselves, and second, they're doing so using RCV. We are the first jurisdiction in Colorado to conduct an RCV election on a modern voting system. There have been other jurisdictions in the state that have conducted RCV contests, but they've done so using hand count methods. So Boulder County is really leading the way in terms of how this new voting method, or how this voting method is going to look in Colorado in the future. So what is RCV? RCV is a voting method that allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference when there are 3 or more candidates for a contest. You probably have heard the use of instant runoff voting. Um, Instant runoff voting and RCV are really used a lot of times interchangeably. Instant runoff voting is a type of RCV when there's a single winner. And so with the City of Boulder mayoral contest, there will only be one winner. And so it is an instant runoff voting type of RCV. And so, as I mentioned earlier, our office did not take an official stance on RCV as a voting method, but what we did do is once the City of Boulder voted to implement this type of reform, we got to work quickly with the state legislature to ensure that our office was set up to successfully implement RCV. And so we worked heavily to ensure that the bill reflected our needs and what should be put on the state to make this successful, and put some timelines in place as well. And then earlier this year, we worked to provide public comment on the proposed rules that the Secretary's office put out, to further refine what was passed in that bill. And so our comments are public, and as all comments folks submit to the SOS during rulemaking. So that's a bit of context and history. As you all can imagine, implementing this type of reform impacts everything that we do. Everything from voter communications and outreach on how to, properly mark your ballot for RCV, to how we set up that ballot to be compatible with our voting system. We needed to upgrade our voting system software, which we did earlier this summer. Needed to, like I said, publicly test the ballots and equipment to make sure that they were compatible and that the election was programmed correctly. Ensure that our results reporting is displaying in a way that provides a level of transparency in how the vote totals move, or how the rankings move through rounds, and then how we set up that post-election audit. So these are the things that we've been working on for the better part of 2 years since the City of Boulder moved forward with this type of reform. So one of the biggest things that we've been working on is voter communications and outreach. So we've been working with the City of Boulder very closely to coordinate, what our messaging is going to be, what our timeline is going to be for implementing that communication plan, what our approach is going to be, who's doing what. We've been coordinating with jurisdictions across the country who have done RCV, and organizations who have established best practices on how to do RCV, including the Center for Civic Design, and some other election experts, to say, what have you learned through working with these jurisdictions, and what have you learned, what to do and what not to do. We've also been trying to ensure that we're reaching a variety of people through websites, newsletters, mailings, social media, voter emails, videos. We've also, are doing these webinars. And so, and then the other thing that I'll talk to you actually in just a second, we'll go to that slide, is the ballot insert with RCV information, probably the most useful thing. So how to properly mark your ballot. So first, if you are a City of Boulder voter, this contest is going to appear on your ballot alongside everything else. We did produce this insert that goes into every single City of Boulder mail ballot packet. This informational flyer is both in Spanish and in English, and it includes ballot marking instructions, so how to properly mark your ballot, how tabulation works, common errors and tips, and as well as information on how to contact our office should folks have any questions about RCV. We are really, really encouraging people to hold on to this instructional sheet because it really is the best explainer and the quickest explainer on how, on the context of RCV and how to properly mark that ballot. So please make sure that people know about this insert and are paying attention. We know that voter instructions are not the most always looked at document in the mail ballot packet, but they sure are important. And this is an addendum to that. So please make sure folks know about that. So how to mark your ballot. So Again, the best thing to do is to look at that green insert that comes in with a ballot. These, we also have instructions on the actual ballot itself. But high level, what you will do is rank candidates in the order of your preference by filling in the oval. So like this visual says. So in the first column, you'll vote for your first choice, second column, second choice, so on and so forth. And you can continue to rank candidates until you run out of allowable rankings or you do not wish to rank any more candidates. There are 4 candidates in the City of Boulder mayoral contest this year. So you can mark up to 4. You can rank as many choices as there are candidates for this election. So there are some exceptions, and we want to review these. And again, these are going to be on the instructions. So as with plurality contest, there are some exceptions. So if you skip a ranking, so if you mark someone as first and then you mark someone as third, but you don't mark anyone as second, everything after the second, everything after that skip is ignored. If you overvote, which means there's multiple votes in a column, what that does is invalidates the overvoted rankings and all lower rankings marked for that contest. If you have a duplicate ranking where there's multiple votes in a row, the candidate is credited with the highest ranking mark and other rankings for that candidate are ignored. And so I know this is kind of hard to see without the visual, so we have that on illustrated on the right, and it's again also on that instructional sheet. But one thing that I want to highlight is that bipartisan teams will be reviewing your ballots for voter intent questions and ballot marking exception questions. And so, that will be the review process as it is with plurality contests when voter intent or exceptions come into play. Okay. How votes are counted. So again, we're guided by state statute and rules. So there will be some predetermined guidelines for those judges to follow, and they will be trained on those ahead of time. But how the tabulation works. So in the first round of tabulation, the first choice rankings are counted for each candidate. And if there's no candidate that has more than 50% of the first choice rankings, then that's when that instant runoff is triggered. That's when the candidate with the fewest first choice rankings is eliminated. And then those ballots then have their next choice counted. And that process continues until there's a candidate that has more than 50% of the votes counted. And we'll get into a little bit more about the results reporting actually on the next slide, because we will be doing multiple uploads of results. So it is going to take our office, we'll go to the next slide. It will take our office the same standard 1 to 3 days after election day to process the bulk of the ballots. So this is our loose schedule right now. Everything is approximate. One thing that I really want to highlight is that, a lot of folks are used to seeing results right at 7 p.m. That is not going to be the case this year. Results will be shown closer to 7:15 p.m. and that is because of the RCV steps that it takes to publish results. So please tell everyone that that results are not going to be at 7, they're going to be at 7:15. And then here's our posting schedule throughout the rest of the next couple days. And the reason that we don't do more postings, we know folks really want more postings and we completely are sympathetic to that. But the reason that we don't is because we basically have to stop the majority of processing activities to pull a results file and upload it to our website. So fewer postings means we can process faster, especially on election night. So we appreciate your understanding and patience, and we'll make a plug that the earlier people vote, the quicker we can get a more complete set of results out on election night. So every time we do an upload, there will be RCV results. And so in RCV, every time we do an upload, the voting system is going to conduct one of those instant runoff rounds until a candidate receives more than 50% of the vote. So it's very similar to other contests in that results can change when a new batch of ballots is added to the total. So even though it might look like a candidate is quote unquote eliminated in that first upload. Um, by the time we do a second, third, fourth, fifth upload, all of that could change. So we really want to highlight that. Is just because someone appears that they might be out in that first upload, it doesn't mean that that's how it's going to stay. Our website is, in order to get to the RCV contest results, you'll go to the same place. You'll go to our website, and then there will be a link to the reporting page. And then if you want the RCV contest, there will be a link that you jump to from our regular RCV page. In terms of how we're going to be presenting the results, so we are going to have two options for folks. There's going to be a pretty standard, straightforward PDF report on the RCV contest. And then we're also providing a greater visualization tool that essentially will demonstrate how the rankings have moved through the rounds. And so folks can go to that visualization tool to actually see more kind of information. And we wanted to provide that level of transparency to the public, so you all can get more information if you would like. So those are the two options for the results. And then we will be doing a post-election audit, and that is dictated in Colorado election rule. For those of you who are familiar, we do a post-election risk limiting audit after every election. And every county does a post-election risk limiting audit. And what that does is verify that the outcome is correct of the election by verifying hand-marked paper ballots to the way the voting system read the ballot at the time of scanning. So there is the Secretary of State's office does have software to help support and facilitate which ballots how many ballots to audit, which ballots to audit. So right now the state has not absorbed our RLA software into their existing tool. So we have been designing our own way of doing the RCV contest to be in line as closely as possible to the way plurality RLAs are completed. So how we've done that, again, we've been similar to how we've prepared for every aspect of this election. We've been consulting with election officials and organizations across the country who have done RLAs for RCV contest. Lots of research. We've been also looking at how we incorporate all the current features. So having audit boards participate, having a risk limit established, how we're using the cast vote record, which is the way the voting system interpreted a ballot at the time of scanning, and comparing that report to the comparison of the physical ballot to that report. So we're working to be in line as much as possible with the current RLA that folks are accustomed to. So this is really the part of the process where we're putting the dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And so in progress, we're just completing testing, refining our corresponding processes and procedures, and just verifying that we are all set to go with the RLA. And we'll go to the next slide, Mercala. Our post-election audit is open to the public, so we invite all of you to attend and see how it works in action. It's currently scheduled for Saturday, November 18th and Monday, November 20th. So please come join us. We'd love to have you and show you how show you how the risk limiting audit verifies that election outcomes are correct. And then we'll go to the next slide. So we will have some additional public outreach opportunities. So we have an election night and beyond webinar on Friday, and that's kind of the deep dive into what reporting looks like on election night and the days thereafter. We'll be doing public ballot processing tours in the weekend leading up to election day, and then we'll have another webinar on Wednesday. So We invite you to come to any and all of these events and tell your friends as well. And then last, before we get to questions, here's just some resources. To check your voter registration, you can go to govotecolorado.gov. If you include an email address, you'll be added to our email list. And I promise we do not spam you. We just send a handful of timely emails around election time to you all. And then talk to your friends and neighbors about how to properly mark their ballots. Remind them to refer to the green RCV instructional sheet in their mail ballot packet. And then here's all of our social media handles as well. We'd love to have you follow along there. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, and we're happy to open it up to questions.
Okay, Molly. I do have one question that I'm going to back us up a couple slides, and if you can go over sort of how the voting system looks at people's votes in processing these choices. So someone wants to know if how many points does their first, second, or third choice get? So if you want to just kind of talk a little bit more about how the voting system looks at these votes and counts them.
Yeah, I'll take a stab and then Marcella, you can add on anything that might be helpful. So what it's doing first is it's looking at first choice rankings. And so that's what, in every upload, it's looking at first choice rankings. And if there's a candidate that receives over 50% of the first choice rankings, then there's no instant runoff that's conducted. But if the voting system runs the tabulation and no candidate receives more than 50% of those first choice rankings, then that's when that instant runoff is triggered, where the person with the fewest first choice rankings is eliminated, and those ballots then are moved, their second choice is moved forward. So I hope that that's answering the question, and Mercall, maybe you can elaborate if you think anything else would be helpful context-wise.
I think, well, for Friday's presentation, if we're going to go really in depth on this, we're also going to have a website. Closer to the election, we publish out a website page that sort of goes into the details on ballot processing and how that works for each election night result posting and how that process continues in the days after the election. But I think the most important thing is that the voting, that first set of results that we'll be posting will show if one candidate doesn't have over 50%, then it'll show how that process worked in that ranked choice process in that moment in time. But remember that we're going to be adding more ballots to that set of results for the next posting. So, you know, someone that may appear to have come in second or third or fourth may shift in the results, just like they would in a plurality contest, which is what our regular voting style. Okay, then I think there was another question, and I think I answered it in the published ones about certified write-in candidates. So this we don't have any certified write-in candidates for any of the contests this year. This is actually, Molly, I think the first election in recent times that I can remember that we didn't have any. However, additionally, for the mayoral contest, the city of Boulder, and while I could talk further about this, the city of Boulder there wasn't a process for that for a write-in candidate for as an option.
Right. No, that's it.
Let's see. Oh, okay, Molly, if you can answer this one. If I give a rank to all four, how would my fourth choice ever get my vote?
I don't know that let's see. Yeah.
Let's see. I think the question is, so if you the person that you rank in fourth, that is correct. It would never, it would basically not, that's just how the ranked choice voting process of works. So Molly, I think if I'm understanding her question, really the let's say, I think it's going to be a little bit more addressed on Fridays, how the voting system reviews and sort of looks at all the ballots, counts all the first choice votes. I think the person that put in that question, can you just clarify a little bit like what you're asking? Because I believe that the answer would be that the person that comes in fourth, that with the least amount of first choice votes,
Right.
that person is then eliminate that candidate, and the elimination and transfer to the second vote is then looked at.
Yes. Yeah, so if that did not answer it, that's let us know. We'll try to elaborate further.
And we'll be standing up a website page closer that really goes into the details, and also just looking at that slide here where it shows you the two tools that you'll be able to access to review on election night, both the report that comes out of the voting system as well as the visualization. Let's see. Oh, another person asked, is the voter and outreach education plan public? If so, where can I find it? We don't have a formal one that's ever published out. We do communicate on all those channels that we listed on that last slide. We worked really closely with the city of Boulder. We also post on Nextdoor if you're on that platform as well. And we have we do sort of a calendar of events that we try to follow. But we've never published that out. That's something we can look into in the future.
One thing I will highlight, though, for this person is that we recently, as of this year, started publishing our election plan on our website. So if you go to our Clerk and Recorder website and go to the Elections Division, we do have our 2023 election plan on there, and we intend to publish future election plans on there as well. And that's the plan that we submit to the Secretary of State's office that outlines vote center location, hours of operation, and other details. So we did start putting that on our website as well. So it's not specific to RCV, but might be of interest to the public.
We'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat so everyone has that. So yeah, this is our the page that I just dropped in has it has a couple different there that show the different divisions, and we've been trying to highlight, put the election plan in here, and actually our 2023 election highlights is up online. It's not linked here, so I will have to get that updated. But we kind of highlight the goals for the division here, and as Tamali mentioned, the election plans there as well. Let's see if there's any more questions in the chat. We'll give another moment. Got one more moment before I did drop in the chat earlier the link to register for this Friday's webinar, where we'll really get into the details and probably explain a lot better about the process of elimination for the voting system. And that is also for, please share that link. It is also under our elections information page. And again, that webinar is geared towards press and candidates that cover the election in details, but it's open to anyone, and we'll be advertising that out. I think actually the press release went out last week, but I'll try to get that on Nextdoor and on social channels this week. If anyone's on those channels, please share that out. We'd love to have more people attend as well. Check the Q&A one more time. Okay, Tim asks if it seems like all of the votes have to be counted before any candidate can be eliminated. Is that true? Molly, do you want to talk about the
Yeah,
process?
so yeah, that's a great question, Tim. So again, we will be doing multiple uploads of results starting at 7:15 p.m. on election night. And so, um, similar to a plurality contest, you know, results could change again and again and again with every single upload. And so we will be doing a final kind of unofficial posting not until um, several days after election day, and then again on 9th day, which is after military and overseas ballots have the chance to come through and voters who might have had like a signature discrepancy come through. So I would say it's the same as it is with a plurality contest, and that we'll be doing a lot of uploads throughout election week and actually on 9 days after the election as well. So yes, I would say, um, you know, that's going to be the best way to tell who is, um, you know, eliminated is once we've had the opportunity to actually do all those uploads. So what may appear true at the first upload may not be the same case by the fifth, sixth upload, for example. And there was another question I see in here that says the candidate you chose as number 4 would never get your vote, from another question asker. So what I would say is that we only, the tabulation system would only use your votes or your rankings after your first choice rankings if your higher ranked choices are eliminated. And so, again, I think there's lots of good information on the website if you are still wanting more information, and or feel free to keep asking questions or send us an email as well. Mercala, would you add anything to either question that I just addressed?
Yes, yeah, I think that question makes more clear. Essentially, if you rank someone in fourth, unless your first, second, and or basically everyone else would need to be eliminated for that vote. So it does not count that. Yeah. So if your fourth choice is basically it does not get counted, because if your first choice, second, or third person are gonna come in. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm explaining this incorrectly or unclearly.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like the very simple answer is that your second, third rankings are only used if your higher ranking choices are eliminated.
There's basically there's 4 columns to fill in, but there's only 3 rounds of elimination to get to a winning candidate. All right, let's give it one more moment to see if we have any more questions pop in here. Thank you for these questions. Because we also, by the way, putting these questions in here helps us make sure that we cover these questions on the website as we put in the content for the website. And yes, I think someone actually in the chat said, explained it a little bit. So ranked choice, basically the ranked choicing doesn't kick in until if there's 3 or more. So your fourth choice might not be implied unless there's a 5th candidate. Basically, there's always one additional column. And for people that are curious, ranked choice voting has been done outside of Colorado in many jurisdictions. There's places that have up to 20 or more candidates for ranked choice voting. So people get to vote as, many more candidates. So we're pretty lucky that we only have 4 candidates here for our first ranked choice voting contest. But this has been implemented successfully in jurisdictions. There's Alaska is one to look at, California, and some other, many other jurisdictions. And I think Maine also has it statewide as well. And there's our handles if you have any additional questions. And I think we've got everything covered. Please feel free to send in questions. We will also make the recording of this available on our YouTube channel.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.